Welcome back to Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper, joined by my guest, Cammarosano, the general manager of HomeGain. Quick reminder, Real Estate Radio is designed to build the Washington, D.C. Metro's housing and credit markets one house at a time. If you ever have any questions, concerns, whether it's credit-related, finance-related, real estate-related, we're here to help. The number is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. You can reach us on the web at realestateradio.dcmetro.com. So before we went to break, I was discussing the top 5 credit myths that the big banks and the credit bureaus don't want you to know. And the reason why this is so important is because one of the main things that go into qualifying for a mortgage is obviously your credit. They say that the average person loses about $4,000 to $6,000 a year because of having poor credit. And the first myth is that information on your credit report can't be changed. That's 100% not true. The only thing that the Fair Credit Reporting Act requires banks or anybody that reports any information on a report is to report accurate information. They don't force them to report anything. So anything on that credit report can be changed. The big banks and the credit bureaus are making billions of dollars by, in my view, purposely and intentionally creating mistakes on your credit report that are very hard to get fixed. So that's myth number one. Myth number two is that credit bureaus are required to keep derogatory items on your report for 7 to 10 years. Everybody's always hears this and say, oh, that's not going to go away for 7 to 10 years. That's not true either. Typically, this is like a credit industry standard that basic collections or normal items stay on for 7 years, public records stay on for 10, and tax liens and things of that nature stay on for 15 years. But there's not the Fair Credit Reporting Act doesn't require any amount of time for any of these items to stay on. They can come on or off at any point. The Fair Credit Reporting Act states 3 things. All information must be accurate, must be verifiable, and must be timely. If any one of those 3 things are not met, item should be removed permanently from your credit report. Now, a lot of you guys will lead me up to the next myth, which is that, I can repair my credit myself. And that is 100% true. You can actually repair your credit. The problem is that most people don't know how or have the wherewithal to write the letters to get them in the hands of the credit bureau so they actually take action. The credit bureaus receive some 60,000 letters a day, which is nearly 22 million letters per year. Does anybody really think that they're reading every one of these letters that come through? I can tell you they're not. They actually I work with the Fortress Credit Pros. Ronnie Lambeth is an expert when it comes to all things credit. And he informed me that they actually have a machine. It's merely a scanner, that every letter comes through, it gets run through the scanner. The computer determines whether this letter is worth going to the next level, which is actually a human. And most of them get shipped off to the India and the Philippines and are assigned a 3-digit code that the credit bureaus will basically label this as, I guess, high priority or not high priority. So if you, just the general consumer out there, are trying to get a negative item removed off your credit report and send in a letter, the chance of your letter getting read by somebody that wants to take action is slim to none. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So you have to work with a professional that knows how to get past these machines and how you can actually get it in the hands of somebody that can make a decision to remove that item permanently. So that's number 3 myth. Number 4 myth is paying off old debts on your credit report so it'll help your credit. That is absolutely not true at all. Anytime you have an old collection or an old judgment on there and you pay that off in full, it doesn't just come off your credit. What it actually does is it basically re-ages itself when you pay it off, because then it's going to re-report. If they stop reporting a couple years ago and all of a sudden you pay it off, it's going to re-age itself and it's going to actually bring your credit back down. I mean, these are, very small things, but in the big picture can really hurt your credit tremendously if you're right before you buy a home, you go in and pay off a collection. What I always tell people is that you want a professional, somebody that will go and do a credit audit on your entire credit report to verify the validity of every item that's on there. Most people make the mistake that they try and challenge something on their court report for whether they paid or didn't pay. That is not what you're supposed to do. You actually want to put the burden on the person or the company that's reporting the information to make sure that they are reporting it according to federal and state law, because they are bound to do so. In working with Fortress Credit Pros, just for instance, I had a client that came to me that said, I've went through bankruptcy. I'm trying to get back on my feet. Most of this stuff should have been taken care of in the bankruptcy. The creditors are continuing to report, and I just want to buy a home. And I said, well, the first thing you need to do is you need to sit down with Rondi and let him do a credit audit on your actual credit report to figure out what we can do to get the information that's not being reported properly or correctly, get that deleted permanently. His score, Rondi averages, he works with customers for most of the time around 90 days or less. This potential client had 540 scores, and in 90 days in working with Fortress Credit Pros went from 540 to 720 in 90 days. Now, I don't know if that means much to you, but I can tell you right now, in buying a home, that could be the difference in hundreds of dollars per month in mortgage payment, because obviously the better credit score you have, the better interest rates you're going to get. And this is a guy that didn't even think that he was going to be able to buy a home. He had creditors reporting stuff after the bankruptcy that, once you go into Chapter 7 bankruptcy, all creditors have to stop reporting on your credit report. Well, what do most of them do? They continue to report. Does the credit bureau stop the banks from reporting? No. Why? Because, well, the banks are paying them. They're paying them billions of dollars to misreport information. And a lot of the time, Ronnie is very successful in being able to get those items that are not being reported properly permanently deleted off of your report. 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. That's the number to call. That's the number that a bunch of listeners in the past couple months have called and actually taken it upon themselves to get their credit straightened out. I'm telling you, there's not credit that's bad enough that we can't start somewhere and get you straightened out. It might not be 90 days, maybe you're 6 months. But that can be the difference between you owning a home and not owning a home. Or if you're in a situation where you have to rent, I mean, Lewis, how many landlords do you think are turning people down because of bad credit?
Well, landlords don't do as much. There probably are, but it's more important on the purchase side, isn't it?
No. What's happening now is, especially in the D.C. metro area, is that there's a lack of supply of rentals out there. Okay, so the landlords or management companies, whoever is the one that's renting these properties out, are getting even more picky about what the person's credit and income looks like. So if there's three rental applications that come in, guess which one they're going to choose?
Well, that's right. When you rent, just remembering now, when you rent a place, you have to fill out a credit application and provide your credit score.
Yeah, and that's
competition. They want to make sure they have the most credit-worthy renter that they're going to rent over a period of time to.
Yeah, and that's why, along with this trying to buy a home, and I always say, credit is so important. Even for you guys out there that maybe aren't considering buying a home right now, I'm telling you to contact me now, because your credit is precious. And anybody that says that it's not, they're lying to you. Like I said, it's costing you, an average person with poor credit, about $4,000 a year. I don't have $4,000 a year to just throw away. I don't know about you, Lewis, but I don't. And the last myth that I wanted to touch on is that you don't need a credit card. That is complete bull. You do need a credit card. And anybody that says that you don't, they're lying to you. People that don't have credit cards or don't have any credit have insufficient credit, and they're not able to get loans.
In fact, they want you to have more than one credit card.
They want you to have anywhere from two to three cards, and have them revolving over an extended period of time. Now, the important thing to note here is just because you take the credit card and it's 15 to 16% doesn't mean you have to pay that. Most people forget that as long as you pay your balance in full, you pay 0% interest on that credit card. And that's more of a money management issue than it is anything else. So if you're out there and, you're saying, I'm against credit cards, I have to kind of urge you to go against the grain here and take out the credit card, but make sure that you're managing your money properly. Put your gas on there, your lunch or whatever, and at the end of the month, pay that off. There's actually cash reward cards now that if you're using your money responsibly, you can get 2% cash back. I mean, I know Discover has that, and there's a bunch of other ones that if you're managing your money smartly, you can actually benefit from having the credit card.
Absolutely. The only problem is that most people don't manage it, and that's why they don't want to get caught.
And that's exactly why the banks and the credit bureaus are getting filthy rich, because they're banking on the statistics that say that the average person's not going to do this.
It's just like the casino. They know if they keep giving you money, you'll spend it, and eventually you'll lose.
Exactly. And Louis, this is my big thing for all the listeners out there. I want to educate them on credit, and you know what? You don't have to accept bad credit. You don't have to accept it. You know what I mean? There's things that you can do to turn it around and get you on the right track.
If people take it personally, they feel like I am bad credit.
And that's not the case. There's a million different reasons why things happen. And I just want to leave everybody on this note. Bad credit is a choice. 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Louis, great having you on this week. I appreciate you coming on. Guys, check out, if you want to check the survey out, the national survey and the Virginia survey, you can go to homegain.com or their blog at blog.homegain.com. Louis, really appreciate you coming on, and look forward to speaking with you soon.
Honored to be here. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to Real Estate Radio. We will be back again next week from 2 to 3 p.m. Thank you for listening to Real Estate Radio.